Hi.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show the show where we are continually seeking justice, one way or another. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Tempestuous Thursday. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks. I'm your host, Scribelight. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Thursday evening. Boy, oh boy. I'm going to attempt to have them. I'm not sure I have the words to describe just how excited I am for tonight's topic. But before I get into that decidedly, and I'm forewarning you, long soliloquy, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? The Alexander, good evening. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Walter Tomaszewski, Jello. Mike R, good evening. Who else is here? Plague Trucker Zach, hello. We also have, scrolling, keep them doggies scrolling. Adam Nixon, good evening to you. Pope Tyrannus III, the Blessed Lich, hello. Kiro Soldier, good evening. JPS, hello. Keeverdam, hello. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma donation page. Guys, that's pinned to the top of the chat box. Please take a look at that when you have the opportunity. And if you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Blue-Eyed Scream, good evening. Robert Pincus, hello. Resolute Germ, hello. Daryl Odell, good evening. Brian Morissette, hello. Unfair Ophelia, nice to see you. The Dead Man, good evening. And Spoonie the Rebel, hello. And anybody I missed, anybody lurking, or anybody in the future, hello. Okay, yeah, like I said, restorative justice. I have been waiting for a TEDx to come along, specifically to talk about restorative justice for quite a while now. I kept my eyes open. This is one of my perennially favorite topics of fascination. I have been looking at this concept and listening to people pitch it to me now almost since the beginning of my channel. Restorative justice is not a new concept by any means, but my first exposure to it did not occur until, I want to say, roundabouts Michael Brown Ferguson era kind of thing. So like 2015, 2016? Something like that, where I started seeing articles saying we need to get rid of prisons. We need to defund the police. We need to start pairing up law enforcement with mental health professionals to answer particular calls so we can avoid bad outcomes and use of force and so on. All these different things. The abolishment of prisons has been a common thread through a lot of the presentations I've watched over the years, with the overriding question always being, what do you do with the murderers and the rapists? In fact, a previous TEDx talk that we covered here had that very question in the title of the presentation. No spoilers as to what happened in the course of that presentation regarding that question. I don't want to spoil it for you. And I don't have the link in front of me. I'm sure some industrious individual in the chat may dig up that particular talk. But either way, this has been a topic I've been fascinated by because I'm always curious to know what is the latest and greatest sales pitch to me about it. Before I get any further, Amethyst Owl, good evening. And Ostzan, hello. Found is here, hello. All right, so what is restorative justice, or what's the modern incarnation? All right. Like I said, I warned you, there's going to be a little bit of soliloquy here. This is the distillation of my understanding of the peak restorative justice process, as I've had it told to me over years now. Now, I don't know what our speaker's going to say. This is just sort of my baseline sort of catharsis, sort of showing off my armchair expertise. So here's a restorative justice session. What you do is you have the offender, the person who has caused the harm. Then you have the victim, the person who has been directly harmed. Then you have stakeholders community stakeholders. These are people who have been affected by the crime in some way in a collateral fashion. And then you have a, let's call a moderator, not a judge. You have a moderator. And you have all of these people sit in a circle, and specifically the offender and the victim across from one another. And it goes like this. The victim speaks first and says, what happened, how it affected them, the damage it did, and so on and so forth. Then you have each of the community stakeholders speak. And one after another, they can talk about this affected me in this way. Let's take this hypothetical for just an example. A robbery takes place at a store in a strip mall. Okay, and so you have the burglar, you have the owner of the store that was robbed, you have the other store owners in the same strip mall who had to respond to or felt like they needed to respond to this crime for the sake of their own businesses, and maybe you have one or two people from across the street at the neighborhood that is across the street from the strip mall. And they all say after this robbery happened, I had to double my security, or, I didn't feel safe at night anymore because there was this robbery that took place across the street, that kind of thing. So all the people that are affected by the crime say their piece. And then the offender has a chance to talk, and they get to say, why I did this, or express their remorse toward the people, and so on and so forth, and that kind of thing. And then, as a group, with the moderator guiding the conversation, they come up with an action plan, some kind of steps to be taken for the offender to redress their crime, some kind of restitution, whether it be monetary or community service or something else. And then they all shake hands and they go their separate ways. And what happens if the person does not do these things? I'm not sure. Don't know. What do you do if the crime in question is something egregious on the violence or personal intrusion level? I don't know. And the other thing that's probably more pertinent in all these other descriptions I've heard that is missing is, how do you arrive at the knowledge that you have the actual offender and the actual victim in the room? Because they almost never make mention of due process, right? Actually determining guilt to a reasonable degree through a jury of your peers and so on, because that would require a prosecution, which previous to that would require some kind of arrest or accusation by the state. And we don't want the state punishing people for crimes. That's what restorative justice wants. They want to get rid of the criminal justice system, or as they call it, the criminal legal system, and also get rid of the carceral state, where incarceration is the endpoint. So that's kind of like the high, pie in the sky kind of notion of what a restorative justice process is. But restorative justice can also find its way into things like diversionary programs, where instead of sending you to prison, you go through rehab or some other kind of program. More popular in recent years, it's been either, I think I mentioned earlier, the pairing up of or the complete replacement of law enforcement with mental health or crisis counselors to respond to specific types of calls, so that physical force or deadly force is taken out of the equation, which opens up a whole other can of worms if you think about it for 5 seconds. Anyway, all these different iterations and sales pitches of restorative justice I have had said to me or presented over the years. And it's just been so fascinating because it just has no sense to it if you think about it. And in recent years, it's kind of gone by the wayside because the whole defund the police thing actually got enacted, and in some places is still being enacted. It didn't do that well. Didn't turn out to have the positive results that they were promised in those jurisdictions. I'm thinking specifically of Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, such and such. And most recently, the mayor of Chicago was caught, such as he was, saying that law enforcement was a sickness, and is still promoting defund the police kind of programs as he's running to become mayor again. So it seemed like a good time for a restorative justice TEDx, and fortunately, one was just posted. Can you tell I'm excited? Can you tell I'm enthused? Kiro Soldier, thank you so much. Are these folks hopeful or naive? Both. Revolutionaries, Marxists, we want to decriminalize crime. You know, crime is caused by a power struggle from the state. It's not actually caused by people committing crimes. People committing crimes are just victims of the system, et cetera, and so forth. They racialize it. You know, they use phrases like mass incarceration, as though people are just being scooped up off the street because of what they look like and thrown into prisons willy-nilly. Because it's obviously a complete, racist thing. They'll talk about, for-profit prisons or prisons run by private companies. Now, that's not to say there have not been actual for-profit schemes in jailing people and kickbacks to judges. You can look up those stories. Those things actually exist. So that does happen, but it's not the norm. It's just, as with any process that can be abused, there are bad actors everywhere that can do it. You just have to police that stuff and then prosecute them. I think I asked this before. I wonder what the restorative justice advocate would want to have done with someone who actually abuses the prison system for their own gain. What would they want that person to have to go through as a result of such a thing? A restorative justice program? That'd be funny. Anyway. Kids for Cash. If that was the thing. Yeah, look up Kids for Cash scandal. Yeah. Big Dave 1066. Hello. Oh, is it Mike R's birthday? Did I miss that? Mike R. Is it your birthday? Oh my gosh, Mike R. Well, Mike R. It's your birthday. Go shoddy. It's your birthday. And a 1. And a 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mike R. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mike R. Hope it's a good one. Has been a good one. We're reaching the end of it, I suppose. But anyway, so yeah, if you can't tell, I am all enthused to listen to somebody talk to me about restorative justice, because I don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be something minor, like diversionary programs? Are they going to be talking about it just in, like, schools, where everybody sort of, like, has a fight and then shakes hands and makes up kind of thing? Is it going to be as extreme as abolishing prisons, or is it just going to be a pitch for mental health counselors with police? Or is it going to be a combination of them all? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Walter Tomaszewski, defund the police are meant originally to take military-style weapons away from cops. It was never meant to stop the police from doing a lawful job. That was one of the early complaints I saw, is the sort of overstock of military gear from the Iraq War and so on was then handed off to police officers and police departments, and they started rolling around the city in military tanks with military weapons, and it was all very intimidating, and it turned into some kind of statement of, sort of martial law kind of thing. I could kind of understand that argument, kind of, on sort of an optics level. If it's not your SWAT team, then maybe it shouldn't be like, beat cops, so to speak. But other than that, yeah, the whole defund and lower the presence of police on the streets and so on. How's that working out for you, Seattle? How's that working out for you, Portland? Yeah, not too well. Not too well. Mobuch, stop torturing DC. That wasn't Dogcat. Okay, a Dogcat Fox birthday song would be like, wowie, wow, 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 that kind of thing. That's how that would go, wouldn't it? Wowie, wow, 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 wowie, wow. Okay, I wasn't asking for a serenade. I was asking for an answer to a question. Okay, just stop. Stop. What are you pouting for? You didn't have to do anything. Jeez. Sorry. Guess he was really excited to sing for you, Mike R. Pardon me. Anyway, so yeah, let's get to it, shall we? Tonight's bingo card is bingo card C. C as in Guardian Circle. which is actually kind of appropriate given this restorative justice. I couldn't think of something justice themed for the bingo card poll today, so I just thought of, let's see, restoration. Oh yeah, the restoration spells in Skyrim. Which is your favorite? And Guardian Circle won. That was C. So get your bingo card C's out. Links are in the description below. And with all of that as a long, tedious preamble accompanying the tedium of the day, let's get going. This one clocks in at just under 10 minutes. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
When I was a little girl.
When I was a little girl, it was a very good year. You guys hear that okay? I'm going to turn down the music just a smidge more, just to make sure it's not overwhelming. Let's see. Sounds good. Scribelight says my car. 5x5 says Kiro Soldier. And Advocate Diablo to hear it, even though I need my ear restored. Oh, I hear it. No. I don't know if I have a spell for that one. But let's see. So this is Karina Lemons at Parish Street.
I was always protected by my older brothers.
That's usually what big brothers do. September 2025. Oh, this is fresh off the presses.
No one would dare try to start a fight with me as long as they knew they were around.
Right, because girls need to be protected. Right?
We moved around a lot when I was growing up. So my brothers and I were often the new kids.
Okay.
When I was about 8 years old.
8 years old. Okay, I always try to keep these facts in mind. It's like, is somebody going to say something mean to you as a kid?
We moved overseas to my dad's new duty assignment.
Oh.
We stayed in a temporary hotel until our permanent housing was ready.
Where did you move to?
I decided one day that I was going to venture out of the hotel room without my brothers.
At 8 years old. Okay.
So as I walked into the courtyard, I saw this group of girls around my age. And I thought it would be a good idea to approach them.
I have a sneaking suspicion that something is about to go awry.
Until I got closer.
Uh-huh.
As I got closer, I heard one of the older girls saying, "My little sister can fight. My little sister can fight. My little sister can fight."
Can her little sister fight? The mystery is overwhelming.
She looked up at me and said, "Hey, you're about her age." And before I could know what happened, she pushed me into her little sister. We fell into the bushes, and her little sister started to pretend to fight me like this.
Okay. It's a story. Yeah, as somebody in the chat. Yeah, that dress, that is a choice. That dress is a choice.
Waving her arms like an octopus.
Uh-huh.
She didn't want to fight me.
I can't imagine she did.
She didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah.
But she knew if she didn't at least pretend to fight me, then that would not be the end of it with her sister.
And the comparison to real life is?
There are just some people that love a fight.
And law enforcement is just people who love to fight?
They don't have to be provoked. Sometimes they fight themselves.
Is this an analogy for police officers?
Other times they use others to fight for them.
The state?
But there are just some people that love a fight.
Okay, well, before we get on to that, let's go to the bingo card real quick, because we do have a childhood or family anecdote, circling that one on the board, and also circling free space. Let's go over the card real quick and remind ourselves what we are listening for. 1 second here. Gotta make sure my circles look decent. There we go. DEI philosophy in some way, shape, or form. Word salad. Mind reading or assumes motives. A list. Marginalized marginalization. Patriarchy. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument. Feminism. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Systemic or institutional. I have a feeling we'll get there with that one. Anecdote that probably never happened. White supremacy. Leaves out vital context. Weightless example or non sequitur. Sales pitch for product or service. Not an idea. Nearly every TEDx talk is a sales pitch for an idea. Has to be for an identifiable product or service. Privilege collectivizes own demographic, self-vilification or wretchedness, economic disparity, benevolent condescension, plays victim, deceptive statistics, and lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias as a part of the presentation. Not that they are possessed by the speaker. I really need to put some kind of qualifier in there so I don't always have to say that. But anyway, so far on the board we have free space and childhood or family anecdote. We'll keep our ears open for others. And here we go.
When I think of fighting in legal terms, I think of suing someone in court.
That's one way to look at it, I suppose. I mean, any action taken against someone else to their detriment is, in a way, a fight, yeah?
Suing someone in court, that's one way to fight.
Yeah.
But it's not the only way.
You're correct.
As a lawyer.
Oh, you're a lawyer. Okay.
People often come to me seeking justice in civil cases, wanting to fight, because they want some type of relief.
So you're a civil attorney. Okay. I mean, again, just going off of what she's saying, I assume. Pope Tyrannus says, mind reading Scribe Light, she assumed that the little sister didn't want to fight, but she probably couldn't fight at all. I don't know if that's mind reading so much as just sort of... I think in the course of the experience, it was just obvious. It was self-evident. I don't know if that's a mind reading. I don't think about it. Let's circle back to that. If we don't have a better example by the end of the talk, let's come back to that one.
Financial relief. Mm-hmm. They want revenge. They want the other person to hurt the way that they hurt.
Yes, justice can come across as vengeance, depending. Yeah, but at least it's gone through a due process in this case, right?
That's in civil cases.
Yes.
But what about in criminal cases?
Well, the stakes are often even higher, and the feelings even more raw, and the balance of evidence against the presumption of innocence is even more important because there's jail time involved.
When people are looking to fight in criminal cases or seeking justice,
yeah,
they usually think of punishment, rehabilitation,
Maybe.
or restoration.
If things can be restored, I mean, if someone's life is taken, or if someone's, let's say, innocence is stolen, that's not really anything that can be restored, but sure, depending on the circumstances.
Fighting is one way in court, but that's not the only way.
Tell me the other way.
Justice is defined as the practice of making things right.
Justice is defined as the practice of making things right. Is that? I have not looked up the dictionary definition of justice in a while. Justice. Just behavior or treatment. The quality of being fair and reasonable. The administration of the law or authority in maintaining this. The personification of justice, usually a blindfolded woman holding scales and a sword. A judge or magistrate, in particular a judge of the Supreme Court of a country or state. I don't see making things right, but I suppose if we want to be very idealistic about it, possibly. But again, how do you make things right for something that cannot be repaired? You know, I mean, if you leave someone with a scar in an assault, how do you make things right? If you've taken a life, how do you make things right?
Of creating balance when harm has been done, resolving conflicts.
Resolving conflicts is different than justice.
and treating people with dignity and accountability.
Yes. But these are Trojan horse terms, I feel like.
Well, as a new lawyer, I wanted to advocate for those that couldn't advocate for themselves.
That is literally what lawyers do. Advocating for others because you have presumably an expertise in the law that the common man does not have. So, yay?
I wanted to help those that were systemically poor.
Systemically poor? Well, that's systemic or institutional, circling that one. But I don't take that as an economic disparity example because she's using poor in a different sense. But here we go. Yes, the system is to blame.
Those that were young and naive. Those that were dealing with mental illness and substance abuse.
Sure.
I remember one of my first trials.
Because obviously if you're young and naive, you're a victim of the system, not of bad parenting.
It was emotionally grueling. It lasted about 2 weeks.
What was the trial regarding?
And the issue was whether or not to move forward with terminating my client's parental rights.
Okay, so again, you're still in civil court, right? Okay. We're still talking about civil cases here. Parental rights usually falls under family law and is a civil matter unless, of course, the jurisdiction has family divided from their civil department or something. Family domestic.
They had followed the recommendations of the court.
Yeah.
They did the treatment. They did the assessments. They had the supervised visits. But the amount of time that it took them to do that was too long for social services.
The amount of time it took them to do that was too long for social services. Didn't social services help to set the schedule? I don't understand.
And ultimately, my client's rights were terminated.
This might be a leaves out vital context situation because usually if there are prerequisites or things that have to be done or completed in a particular time, they set a schedule, like you have to complete this training by X date or something, or our next hearing will be at blah, and by then you have to do this, that, and the other. Did this person slack on their responsibilities? I have a sneaking suspicion that your client didn't take their obligations seriously. But unless or until you tell us otherwise, I can only assume.
I and my client were devastated.
But were you surprised?
I felt like justice had failed my client.
I think, again, in the absence of more information and knowing just a smidge about how these things generally work, I think your client failed your client.
When I think about what could have been done, there could have been an opportunity to heal. The parties could have come together and addressed the harm.
Could have, but that's okay. Obviously, one or both parties decided that things could not be settled in-house, that they had to bring in the law to intervene and set boundaries and guidelines because of whatever the circumstances were of this relationship that you're not telling us. Okay, so when there are insurmountable or irreconcilable differences between a couple when it comes to parental rights, what do you suggest be done? How? Okay, here we go, and I think this is where she's going. All right, so without having told us exactly what it was that happened with your client that justice failed them, or as I suspect their client failed themselves, what is your cure for this problem? How would you have arranged things where your client would have won?
And take accountability.
Okay, how? Okay, well, here's the thing. Again, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just, this is why restorative justice just drives me up the wall. It's like, okay, the court set particular things that this person had to do. They had to go through, I'm guessing, some kind of like parental training class, or maybe some anger management classes, or gain, employment within a time frame, or any other number of things that might have been required of them between court hearings to show that they were taking their parental rights seriously and thus could either regain them or maintain them. And so, if you don't do these things by this time, the consequence will be you lose your parental rights. That's accountability. You're expected to take on these responsibilities. If you do not, or do not take them seriously, or the court feels like you're not taking them seriously, the Damocles sword hanging over you is you lose your parental rights. So we're already at a point where I'm circling leaves out vital context. That was just the scenic route to me justifying circling leaves out vital context. Because without telling us the specifics of the circumstances where your client was dealt with unjustly, we cannot know that they were treated unfairly. And therefore, we cannot know that whatever you're about to offer up next, granted you're about to offer up anything as an alternative, would have actually been a better choice. So, that being said.
When I think of justice,
yes,
I think of healing.
Great. Give me some specifics.
Healing is the act of curing or restoring to health.
Okay, I didn't know this was going to be a dictionary session. Do you have an idea? Would you like to give us a specific game plan for what would have cured or healed the process of your client in losing their parental rights? You brought up that example. You have an alternative, right?
Or the process of becoming well.
Yes, okay.
I have a friend that had the most amazing mother.
Okay, so that should have been my thumbnail image right there. That's a great image. So we're not even going to address the example story you just gave us. We're going to move on to another one. So you had a client. Their parental rights were in contest. They were denied justice somehow, and they lost their parental rights, and this was unfair, you say. Not going to tell us why specifically, not going to tell us what you would have done different if you had been in charge. Now we're going to move on to a different anecdote. Okay.
She was a miracle.
Sure.
She got really sick.
Mm-hmm.
And before they released her from the hospital, they sent her home with hospice care.
Before they released her from the hospital, they sent her home with hospice care. Okay.
Now, my friend and his 4 siblings took care of their mother. They resided with her. They took such good care of her that she lived for another 15 years.
That is a long hospice right there. Was she misdiagnosed? Just, wow, okay. What, are you going to, are you going to at least tell us like what she was diagnosed with?
One of the siblings that lived in the home, let's call him Dave.
Sure, let's call him Dave.
Had a son, let's call his son Barry.
Sure, Dave Barry. Wait a second.
Who also resided in the home. And they had a tumultuous relationship.
The son and the father? Or mom and the two of what?
They were always fighting.
The son and the father?
One Sunday morning, the fighting escalated to the point where Barry pulled out a gun and shot and killed his father.
What? Whoa, wait, what? Whoa! What? Oh, okay. Okay, so dad and son of indeterminate age, both living in the home with 15-year-long hospice care mom, pulls out a gun and shoots dad and kills him. I have no idea where this is going. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm actually literally on the edge of my seat. You'll pay for the seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Barry called his aunts and uncles who were away from the house that day.
Uh-huh.
They came back to the home.
Did they as a family decide not to contact the authorities and just bury dad out back and like tell Barry that he was a very bad boy? I can't even imagine where this is going in a restorative justice context.
Called the police.
Okay.
Barry was arrested.
Yes.
And the courts got involved.
What? Are you surprised? What is that? What is that? You're a lawyer. What? Okay. And what would you have preferred to have happened? What did you expect to have happened? Like the courts had a choice in the matter? Oh, well, I mean, you just committed one of the worst possible crimes on the list. I don't know, guys. Should we do something about this? Gee, I don't know. Should we get involved? Is it really our place to get involved, as law enforcement and adjudicating guilt or innocence or severity of offense and punishment in society for breaking the, one of the oldest laws in society? I don't know, guys. I don't know, but oh gosh, the courts got involved. Dang it. So what would you have preferred? Vigilante justice? Give him a pass? And it's like, oh, well, they've been fighting for a really long time. It was just a matter of time till one of them did this to each other. So can you really blame them? I mean, fighting, arguing, obviously, that's eventually going to lead to somebody getting their life taken. Just one of those things. You went to law school. Why are you...
The district attorney on the case had an idea.
Oh. Was it a diversionary idea?
That would allow this family to heal.
Okay, how old was the son? Did she say how old Barry was? If Barry was like 11 years old or something, right? We already have laws and precedents, depending on the state, so on, that might find a different way. But I don't think she mentioned how old Barry is or was at this point. So if she didn't mention, just saying like, a father and a son. Well, I mean, the father could be 65 and the son could be 47. Like, I don't know. Like, what?
And it's called restorative justice.
Yes. Okay. Talk about burying the lead. We are now 6 minutes into a 9.5-minute talk.
The family had the opportunity to reconcile, repair the harm.
They resurrected Dave?
Take accountability.
Okay, okay. Again, if Barry was a minor and the gun was unsecured, let's say, and someone else in the family's responsibility was to see to the security of that weapon, then sure, maybe there's some accountability to be had by the rest of the family. But otherwise, what are you talking about?
And Barry was released with time served.
But after how long? What? Okay, I can only circle leaves out vital context so many times. But it's almost like an intentional lack of detail being provided us.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Okay. I guess the part of it that also surprises me, well, it's not the first time, but it still surprises me, that someone who, by her own description, makes her living as a lawyer, as someone who has to argue in front of juries and judges in order to convince them of one thing or another, that she's on a stage all by herself, unbidden, unrestricted, and yet this is her best persuasive argument for restorative justice, and she leaves out vital facts that would be important for us to assess the, I don't know, the correctness or the accuracy or whatever of her argument. Maybe that is just an extension of being a lawyer, but holy cow, lady, what are you talking about? How old was Barry? If he did a time served, that means he spent some time incarcerated or in custody. How long was he in custody or incarcerated for? What? I would really like to know the details of this case. In the following 3.5 minutes, I don't think she's going to give them to us if past is prologue.
Healing is the act of curing or restoring to health.
You already said that.
The act of being made well.
Okay, well, now that Dave is dead, what was made well? How was it made in this particular circumstance that you have brought up? What did Barry do? What accountability was there for the family? You seem to imply there would be some for the family or something. How? In this situation, I mean, and I'll give her credit at least, kind of, that she brought up an example of the worst possible crime. Well, there's, destroying an entire planet or something. But anyway, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, one of the worst crimes in society, the taking of another person's life, and not in self-defense, as least as she described it. Okay, how was healing enacted in this circumstance? What did the family do as a result? What did Barry do after he was released? You have to tell us these things, otherwise you don't have an argument.
When I think of healing and justice,
yeah,
I think of restorative justice.
Could you describe it for us? Because you haven't. I've watched a lot of restorative justice presentations, and so far, this has been the one that has been absolutely bereft of procedure or details.
Restorative justice focuses on repairing the harm to people and communities and restoring relationships.
Yes, the relationships have been harmed by this crime. Okay, so either, and you got two options here, okay? You got two options here. Either you're going to tell us how restorative justice specifically would have addressed the quote-unquote injustice that happened to your client as far as parental rights, or you're going to tell us, in an ideal world, how Barry would have been handled outside of a court process, and I'm assuming some kind of incarceration, though you won't tell us what, and we don't know how old Barry was. Yes?
Rather than punishing the offenders.
So rather than holding someone who's committed a crime accountable, we're going to heal the community. Proceed.
It's rooted in the idea that a violation of crime.
Sorry, I didn't actually mean to pause there. My thumb is a little bit on a twitchy trigger finger. No pun intended.
Violation of crime, a crime or wrongdoing. It's not just the violation of the law, but it's a violation of people and trust.
Yes, that's why we have laws that govern everybody. And that's why, if you'll notice, you are a lawyer after all, that when a prosecutor stands before a judge in a criminal matter, 9 times out of 10, they say the people versus XYZ PDQ person, right? Because they represent the people, they represent society, they represent the agreed upon by social contract and by written statute and law, the boundaries of behavior that everyone is expected to adhere to. Okay, so you're not invalidating the current process so far. Go on.
Now, there are many different restorative justice models.
Could you describe one for us? One that is pertinent to either of your two examples?
But mainly they're focused on,
Yes.
rooted in the idea
Yes.
of repairing relationships and allowing for that person that caused the harm to take accountability.
Okay, so carry this over into one of your examples.
Restorative justice is used mostly in criminal cases in the U.S.
How? How is restorative justice at present used in criminal cases? Because my understanding, if we're talking about the actual, prosecution of law, we're talking about diversionary programs or alternatives or something, right?
Only in a few civil cases across the country. But I encourage you to consider restorative justice as a way of resolving conflict.
You have to give us an active example. If you want to encourage more restorative justice practices in civil cases, well, then take the one that you presented, give us how it went the first time around, and then give us the alternative in some detail of what a restorative process would look like instead. That is what you need to do here.
In civil cases. You don't have to just limit it to court.
You're right. It could be like, oh, those two kids just had a fight. Hey there, Billy and Jimmy, shake hands and make up and be friends. That is a restorative practice, by her definition.
In civil cases or criminal cases.
Make the argument. Give us a plan. Give us an example.
This is something that you can practice in your everyday life.
What can I practice? Specifically, what?
You can practice it with your family.
Practice what?
With your friends and
Practice what?
your communities.
Yeah.
And especially at work.
At work? Okay, we have left the legal plane of existence and now we're into the working world plane of existence. We haven't even said how it would work. In the legal sphere, now we're down to the private sector. Okay.
When I think of justice and healing,
You think of restorative justice, you think of butterflies and cotton candy.
I think of restorative justice.
You know, it's very difficult to take somebody seriously when they use a word in the definition of its own definition. You know, when I think of restorative justice, I think of restorative justice. When I think of justice and healing, I think of restorative justice. When I think of restorative justice, I think of justice and healing.
Jack Cornfield says,
Jack Cornfield? Did you say Jack or Jack? Who?
restorative justice. Jack Cornfield says,
Jack Cornfield. That sounds like a character from a Wizard of Oz book. Jack Cornfield? No, Cornfield. Cornfield? Jack Cornfield. Wait a sec, I know this guy. That guy looks very familiar. Why do I know this guy? Hold on a second. Hold on, Jack Corn. He looks very familiar to me. Why do I know this guy? Jack Corn. If it is the same Jack Cornfield, obviously there could be more than one Jack Cornfield. Jack Cornfield, Cornfield with a K. An American writer and teacher in the Vipassana movement in American Theravada Buddhism. Okay, so he's a Buddhist philosopher. He co-founded the Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts. Okay, all right, and so he's a Buddhist and a Buddhist philosopher. Okay, I needed some context there because you haven't told us, unless you're about to tell us that he's a Buddhist philosopher.
our sorrows and wounds are healed only when we touch them with compassion.
Again, murder and rape.
I believe that using restorative justice begins with compassion.
I think in the cases that you've talked about, without giving us any details to say otherwise, misguided compassion, but then without more details, I don't know.
It begins with the willingness to want to heal and move on from the hurt.
Or to ignore the realities of human nature and think that you can make everything nice by being nice. And I know that's an idealistic sort of perspective, but it unfortunately is not the cure to all that ails us.
That little girl in me,
Yeah.
way back in that fight,
Oh.
rather than going after the little girl's sister, I wanted to connect with the little girl that I was in that fight with.
Oh, you're going back to one of your previous anecdotes, but not either of the two that might actually be relevant to this because they dealt with the legal system. Okay.
And so we had a conversation.
You kissed and made up, huh? You shook hands and came away as friends, right? Okay, yeah, that is the simplest, least complicated example of restorative justice. And completely irrelevant to what you've been talking about.
And found out that neither of us wanted to fight.
Oh my God. You see, Tyrannus, it wasn't mind reading. She knew because she found out.
In fact, neither of us had even been in a fight before. But that conversation led to a lifelong friendship.
I'm so glad for you. What does this have to do with anything?
So using restorative justice,
Which you have not in any way, shape, or form described throughout this entire talk.
can be just as simple as wanting to move on from the pain and the hurt.
What if you can't? What if you really loved the person that was murdered? What if you can't sleep at night with memories of the assault that occurred on you or your child or something? What if it's not quite all sunshine and rainbows in every scenario? What do you do then?
Addressing the harm.
How? How do you address the harm? Even going into this, I understood the likelihood that I would not have very simple questions answered by someone who would comport themselves to be an expert or an advocate for these things. At the same time, it remains endlessly frustrating.
Taking accountability for
How?
your actions, even
How?
if that means a simple apology letter.
A simple apology letter. Yeah, dear dead dad, I am so sorry I shot you to death. Love, come on.
Consider using restorative justice so that you can move on and heal.
I am severely disappointed. After all this time of not finding anything specifically about restorative justice from the TEDx crop, I mean, there might have been something out there that I missed. They dump a lot of videos out there, and maybe something was titled in a way that was not obvious. Either way, that's the best you got? That's the best you got. Restorative justice is great, I promise, guys. It's great. You really should practice it. You should practice it all the time. Here are some examples of things that I had to go through either as a lawyer or as an observer to the legal system. And yeah, by the way, did you know restorative justice is great? Okay. Anyway, I guess that was the presentation. That was it. Not, I hold out so much hope. I'm going to get something worthwhile, even passingly worthwhile out of these. Instead, we get a toothless trust me story. All right, this is the card as I have it right now. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to those. I'll get to you momentarily. DEI philosophy. I didn't hear anything in that regard there. Not specifically, anyway. Word salad, yes. Because how many times did she repeat, the definition of healing is this, and the definition of healing is that, and justice is this. And it was just filler. It was just filler. Okay, mind reading assumes motives. We have one argument that from Tyrannus that the her statement that the girl did not want to fight was mind reading. However, she did end up having a conversation with the girl after. If we believe her anecdote, and that of all the anecdotes that she's given, none of them felt like they were too good to be true necessarily. I'm not sure it's as cut and dry as that. It's she might have been relaying information she had retrospectively by knowing the girl didn't want to fight. And at the same time, I can extend to somebody the possibility that just through body language and other things you can sort of tell. And it's not just an assumption, as the square says. But I'm open to arguments. A list. I was hoping for steps. I was hoping for, this is how restorative justice works. You got to do this, 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 and this. And she didn't do that. So, marginalization. Yes, because I'm gonna take systemically poor as a synonym for marginalized, because she said that at one point, and that was also so it's kind of double dipping, but she was also making two different points in that way. Patriarchy, she never mentioned gender. Contradicts own point, fails to make argument. Boy, howdy. I promise you guys, restorative justice is great. You're just going to have to trust me with me not telling you what it is or how it works or how it would apply to anything that I've mentioned so far, except the sort of shake hands and come away as friends thing on a childish level. Feminism, again, didn't bring up gender in any meaningful way. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. She didn't repeat anything other than her purported dictionary definitions a couple of times, and I didn't hear anything new or coffee table book worthy. Anecdote that probably never happened. And see, this is where I run into a wall. It's like, well, none of the stories she told were out of bounds too good to be true, because in the one instance, she got into a fight when she was a kid, or even if it was a fake fight. That doesn't sound out of the ordinary or necessarily bizarre. She defended someone who lost their parental rights for reasons unexplained. It wasn't a particularly self-congratulatory story. She failed her client, or her client failed her client. So I can't say that one sounds too good to be true. And the story of, I don't know what mom being home in hospice had to do with anything. We'll get to that maybe in a minute. But son of undetermined age shoots dad dead and does undetermined amount of time in prison before being released with time served. It might be untrue. I can't say. So, at least in my book, unless there's an argument otherwise, extending the benefit of the doubt for the lack of information, I can't say that there's any anecdote that seemed too good to be true or fake. Moving on, white supremacy. Surprisingly enough, she never brought up race. Race is usually one of the hallmarks of bringing up restorative justice, talking about mass incarceration and so on. Weightless example, non sequitur. Not to diminish the situation, because my own family's going through it right now, but what in the world did mom being at home in hospice for 15 years have to do with anything? Like, you went to a great lengths to add that element, and has nothing to do with the case at all. I thought there was going to be something involving mom in the argument, or that mom was hurt in the conflagration or something, but that didn't happen. Sales pitch for product or service. Again, well, it wasn't even a good sales pitch for restorative justice, but she didn't mention a particular product or service. If she'd mentioned, Jack Cornfield's book, I might have gone for that, but she just came up with a quote. So, privilege, not that I heard. Collectivizes own demographic. No, she never said as a woman or anything like that, so that didn't come up. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, even in the instance where her client didn't get what they wanted, she blamed the system. She didn't take any responsibility for herself or say that she was the problem. So, no, I didn't hear anything like that. Economic disparity. Well, she said systemically poor, which, and I've already circled marginalization for that and systemic on top of that. So I don't think that qualifies, and I can't think of another example in the talk that mentioned economic disparities. So you're going to have to fight for that one. Benevolent condescension. Yeah. Just the, and then the courts got involved. And also, not in a talk about restorative justice and bringing up specific examples, just doling out platitudes and trust me stories. That's, you want people to practice this thing because obviously it's good and it's good for you. I won't tell you how it works. Plays victim. Okay, now this also is a tough one because in the two instances where we're talking about someone having something bad happen to them or having done something bad, the one client lost their parental rights. Barry had to be going through the courts because he killed his father. She's not the one playing the victim. And the story in her childhood turned out to be a net positive, she says, by making a friend. So you would have to, like the last talk, where this square was the most contentious of them all. You're going to have to give me something where she is being deceptively, a victimhood narrative she's building for herself. Okay, that's the tough one. Deceptive statistics. She didn't give us any statistics, did she? I don't think she did. Or if she did, I'm forgetting. And lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Again, I'm hesitant to circle it because in the absence of more details of what supposedly happened to her paternity client, or what she would say was the fault there, and we don't know the age of that's so bizarre that she would not mention the age of the son in that story, because that would be supremely relevant to how the justice system would treat an individual like that. So I think that's about where I'm at right now. Again, if you have arguments for squares to be circled, not yet circled, put them in the chat now. If I've missed your argument, please just repost it saying, scroll up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Advocacy, I believe. We need a space like deceptive statistics, but for deceptive definitions. Leaves out vital context, could cover that depending. Maybe. I feel like that kind of overlaps with existing squares in a way. But, I'm open for argumentation, as always. At least say mom's situation called stress and tension. Yeah, I mean, if she had said, not only did the death of Dave obviously lead to the death of Dave, but the action also caused such strain and stress in the mother for having lost, I'm assuming, her son, that her health took a massive dip, right? And then you could say, mom then belongs amongst the community stakeholders contingent of a restorative justice process, right? So collateral damage to Dave dying was this very sick mother who had been, living on a prayer, so to speak, for the last 15 years, and all of a sudden, major decline in her health. I could see that making some kind of sense to the whole restorative justice argument. I wouldn't say it's a necessarily convincing one, but at least it would fit the model. But she didn't do that. So, Blue-Eyed Scream, I hope she wasn't advertising her lawyer services. Again, without more details. I mean, I'm willing to believe that she's a perfectly fine lawyer, because the scenario that she gave us sure sounded like her client didn't meet the requirements of the court. All right, Advocates Diaboli plays victim, blaming the court and the state for her losing her client's parental rights case. Okay, so by extension, you mean? Yeah, because of all the anecdotes, I mean, well, not of all, of the three anecdotes, that's the only one where she was sort of in a position of authority, so to speak. Still, I get your argument, but in a situation like that, where the court is setting the expectations for someone to either establish or maintain their parental rights, it falls on the client to check all the boxes within the time frame. So I feel as though she was creating a victim narrative for her client more than she was for herself. And I know that's splitting hairs a little bit, but I'm trying to be as true to the square as possible here. Because her whole argument is the system is a detriment to people caught within it, right? When she said that Barry, then the courts got involved, that kind of thing. So she's creating victim narratives for the people that are held responsible by the criminal or the legal system, whether it's criminal or civil. I don't think she's creating a narrative for herself. Okay, so now take that, and if you have a response, go ahead. But that'd be my resistance to it. I know, plays victim 2 weeks in a row. Bridget. Sorry I haven't been around. Tons of work in kendo for me. Hey, I can understand. Hitting people with large sticks is far more important than attending TEDx talks. I grant you this pass. Bridget, you beating up on people with sticks takes precedent. So don't worry. You have nothing to apologize for. You're out there doing right by the rest of us by hitting people with giant sticks. It's true. Found. Anecdote that never happened. The fight was in a foreign country, but somehow they were inner city American kids. Well, I mean, if dad was on a military, because she said like her dad's service. So if it was a military base, if it was an American military base, I could see, and if it's housing for military families, sure. There could be plenty of other families there with kids from similar backgrounds and so on and so forth. So sure, that didn't seem all that unbelievable to me. Because I think she said her dad was in the military or his service. So yeah, unless there's something else that you want to add to that, I think I can believe that. Sales pitch for every other lawyer in whatever area she lives in. Fair enough. Mind reading. She assumes victims want restoration and not vengeance. Okay, so, I mean, that could also be benevolent condescension. Like, I know what's best for victims, so restorative justice. Okay, you know what? I can believe that. Yeah, she has a one-size-fits-all solution, and that victims in general would be better served by a restorative justice process than by putting your offender away from society. Or society in general would be better off and knows better than the rest of us. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll give you that one. Okay. Yeah, I could see that falling astride both that and benevolent condescension. So, fair enough. Fresco's, anecdote that never happened. The family whose father was murdered was completely healed and satisfied after the son got time served. Does anyone really believe that? Yeah, in this case, her lack of details and explanation makes that argument stronger. Because without telling us how, I mean, if she'd at least described what the tumult was. Like, again, if the situation was Barry was 14 or 15 or something, or like he committed the crime right on the edge where the law decides, generally speaking, whether or not an offender is an adult or not, right? And the family had knowledge of this conflict between the father and son, or maybe the father had been abusive in some way in the past, and so there was some argument for, mental distress, or if there had been something about how the family, given all the circumstances that they knew internally, did not want to hold Barry accountable in the same way as if it were in another situation, and that having him in prison and having his life interrupted for what was a momentary, childish, emotional mistake, and etc. If we'd had something like that, even if it would only be specific to that case and that conflict, then maybe I wouldn't circle the square. But since she didn't tell us any of that, I don't have any reason to believe it. You're correct, so we'll circle it. I want to explain why I'm either agreeing or disagreeing with things. I don't want people to feel like I'm just making this stuff up. Right. Advocate Diaboli, minor assumes modes. She assumes victims want restoration. Oh, yes, you said that one. Okay. Miranda Stone, evening. Sorry I'm late. Hope a good stream. Hope a good stream, or have a good stream, or hope it was a good. Either way, guys, do you know about Miranda Stone? Because if you don't. Let's see. What else do we have? Scrolling. Okay. Mike R. Self-vilification for causing her client to lose their parental rights. See, if she had taken responsibility for that, if she had said, I was a poor lawyer that day, but she didn't. She blamed the system. She blamed the court somehow for not being compassionate. She didn't take responsibility for anything. And so unfortunately, at no point in the course of this talk did she vilify or denigrate herself or her skills. It was the court's fault. It was the system's fault. So in a way, her not taking responsibility is better for her in the bingo card. That makes sense? Only if the family wasn't fond of dad. Again, without more information or context, it doesn't make any sense. All right, here we go. Plays victim. She's the one fighting for justice and healing, but the courts keep beating her down and ruining her life mission. Okay, so by extension of a lack of restorative justice, she's suffering. Or she has decided to join a vocation that is completely antithetical to her personal beliefs of her own choice. It's just, Yeah, I guess there is an element of I am all the Jedi in this thing. Okay, all right. Given the context of the talk and her focus on it so much. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. It would have been a harder sell if it was a bingo square, but I'll grant you. Okay, she was representing society and the disappointment in the system. Okay, fair enough. Daryl Adele, fighting so hard for a square that woman. Hey, this is, again, it's not each square is its own discussion. Each square is its own argument, or can be. And this is how it works. I honestly don't care as much about the bingos on this card as the back and forth and the arguments made in order to justly, fairly circle them. Because I think that's the beneficial part of TEDXcellence at the end of the day, is that we have a conversation, a civil conversation about what we've listened to and whether or not things apply. So, plays victim being circled after that much toil and strain, I think is more valuable than any bingo ever could be. And now you know, and knowing is a constant source of disappointment. Da, 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 da. Anyway, so any other arguments for squares to be circles, guys? This one was so narrowly focused and provided so few extra places to discuss anything because she said a lot of nothing most of the time. It's difficult to find anything else applicable. And this might be the first bingo card in a while. We haven't had even a single bingo. Pope Tyrannus, like justice, we need to examine the facts. Play's victim should allow for small news. I know, and like I said, I'm open to a nuanced argument. There have been some those of you that have been around a while, there have been some very, very clever arguments made in the past of what we listened to that brought me around to circling a square, and I've made it known when I've been impressed. It's like, all right, that covers the bases. That's a good way to look at it. Mike R., thank you so much for the bye-bye Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow.
Oh, there's a P-Dog Night Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Mike R., and happy birthday again. And, Frosted Glass aiming for the fences. Economic disparity, she focuses on the poor clients. Again, she said systemically poor. Well, hold on. No, she talked about people with mental illness and drug addict. Did she mention specifically the poor or the economically disadvantaged? I mean, she talked about. Sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. The poor. Did she? Okay, she said systemically poor. I mean, that could be taken a whole lot of ways. Did she explicitly mention the poor? Because I know she talked about those who were drug addict, mentally ill. I need some corroboration. I don't have the video in front of me now because I've now removed it from the thing. Okay, Jay Blizzard, that's not corroboration. That's just flatulence. Did she specifically mention the poor, the economically disadvantaged? I need to go back in the video or something. I'm going to have to do that because if it's that specific, I have to hear it. So let me jump around the video just offline a little bit here. Hold on. Okay. We're still going through the childhood fight thing here. No. As a lawyer. Civil, yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm going through her talk again, guys. I'm sorry. I really want to figure out if she mentions these things again. All right, here we go. I wanted to advocate for those who couldn't advocate for themselves. She wanted to help those who were systemically poor. And if she hadn't said systemically at the top of it, I might agree with you, but she never said poor people. She says systemically poor, young and naive, mental illness, and substance abuse. So there was no explicit listing of economically disadvantaged or poor. Systemically poor. That muddies the waters as far as I'm concerned. So, average Joe, the system makes them poor. Okay, well, hold on. When someone says systemically poor, what do they mean? Systemically poor describes a person whose poverty is caused or perpetuated by the economic and social. Okay. I thought. Okay. All right. I take it back. This is me not knowing that phrase well enough, apparently. Systemically poor. I suppose that takes the responsibility off the individual for their own economic circumstances. That's what that is there for? Okay. You got me. It is circled. And I think that takes us to the end of the show, guys. We don't have a bingo. Doesn't happen very often. We don't have bingo. This is the importance of the bingo card selection from the poll. And if you'd like to take part in the bingo card poll each week, you can follow me on X at scribe_light. Let's see. Programming notes. There will be a Saturday stream this week. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Might be news, might be a Dog, Cat, Fox, and Friend, might be something else. Not sure yet. There are real life things that are in the air for the foreseeable future, so I don't want to make too many promises that I can't keep, but I will do something on Saturday. Not sure yet. Also, something that I just realized yesterday. So my anniversary, my YouTube anniversary, my 9th anniversary falls on next Saturday, the 11th of October. I will not be in town. Saturday is when I go up to see to my mother after her surgery, and also to help to care for my father. So I will not be here on the date of my anniversary, unfortunately. Therefore, unless something comes up, because something could, but therefore, next Thursday, the 9th, fittingly enough, because it's my 9th anniversary, I'm going to take the usual day of TEDXcellence and turn it into my anniversary celebration stream. I am probably going to start a couple of hours earlier than I usually would. I am going to invite on to just pop in, say hello, or hang out as many of my old-time YouTube friends as I can. We'll hopefully see some people pop in and say hi, and we can reminisce. I plan on doing some Mad Libs, some discussion of current events, maybe a TEDx or 2 or 3, depending on what's going on. And yeah, so that'll be next Thursday, the 9th. I'm thinking starting at like 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now, I have to caveat all of this with the fact that, as I've described to you on previous streams, there are circumstances in my family right now that at any moment might come up and take me elsewhere. And that is the priority if and when it does happen. But barring something else coming up, that is the plan. As we get closer to that date, I will let you guys know more, and I will post a link to it and all that good stuff. So that is the plan for now. I will probably do a DEI Death Watch on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. I caveat all this with stay tuned, because you never know. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please do leave a like, and please do share this out on the social medias that you have access to, whether it's X, which is always good. I'm simulcasting on X, by the way. Also, if you have access to Facebook or Blue Sky. Yeah, hey, Blue Sky. Truth Social. I don't know that I've ever had anything posted on Truth Social before. Or LimeWire, Napster, ICQ, AOL, Instant Messenger, Google Buzz. If you still have access to that, that'd be impressive. Maybe Friendster. You know, whatever you like. But aside from that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the link at the top of the chat box to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciate it. Did you know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? Well, if you'd like to join the Discord server, a link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. Just click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, or not a bot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is healing. Just say hello, healing, and I'll know that you watched the show. Happy birthday again to Mike R. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I hope your Friday goes well. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please do get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.